Well, today was fairly exciting even before I posted something on X about, selling all of my stock. And and then there was a lot of excitement in my day, at least. How about yours? How's things been going for you, Mr. Nicholas Gibbs? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about the next few weeks.
Me too, absolutely 100%. So, all right, let's start with my foolishness today.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. So last night before I went to bed, I'm like, you know, this new fight with the president and Musk bothers me, worries me, concerns me, makes me nervous about how it's going to pan out the second time around. And then in addition, we've got these numbers coming up on Wednesday that might be a lot worse than the street think they're going to be. And then there's this whole business of kind of we've got these new Republican potential buyers of products from Tesla who we thought we were wooing into our world, and now all of a sudden, Musk is pushing them away. So if we don't have the Democrats or the Republicans, it only leaves us with the independents. Anyway, and I just kind of overnight I thought about it, and I woke up this morning. I was like, no, I want to be out for the next 3 days. I want to be on the sidelines, and that maybe I can pick up 50 points if I'm really right. I might pick up 50 points and buy in again at 250, or if I'm wrong, I'll jump out at 305, 30 something like that, and take a little hit.
Fair enough. So, is the reason just purely because of the drama and the delivery numbers, or is there something else?
Yeah,
Because
it was pretty much purely, making a couple of bucks.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So so just based on the conversation we were just having in the green room,
Right.
as you say, why not just sell covered calls then?
I thought you might suggest such a thing.
You could have just sold a weekly covered call that expires on Friday.
Right. Or Thursday.
No, Friday. There's no expirations for Thursday.
Oh, well, this Friday there's no market.
Oh no! Wow, sorry.
No market. Yeah. Sorry. I mean,
You're right. I'm wrong.
for once, a broken
I,
clock.
I, I I keep forgetting that it's a holiday weekend. I
Right, right.
keep forgetting.
Okay, so I should have sold a covered call that expired Thursday or maybe next Friday.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, you could have made a lot more money. Well, I mean, you wouldn't make a lot more money, but you could have had your cake and eat it too.
Like no risk.
I wouldn't say no risk because there's always risk with everything, but in general, yeah, I would say cover calls are financially zero risk. They're only The only real risk with a cover call is ego.
Ego.
Well, yeah, if you sell covered calls at 315, you
Right,
collect all that premium,
right,
and then before expiration we go to 400. Yeah, you didn't lose any money, but your
right.
ego took a hit because you're like, oh, I could have made this money.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's kind of I'm kind of in that same boat again if I'm not able to get out if there's a sudden spurt.
You mean with the cover call?
No, I'm saying even in my situation where I have my
Yeah.
cash now sitting on the sideline, if I don't jump in, if it starts going up and I think, wow, that's not going to keep going up, and then
Mhm.
it's not going to keep going up. If I don't jump in at some place and take my medicine early, I could also have that kind of
If
ego blow. Yeah.
if all of a sudden your all-time high prediction happens,
Like in
yeah.
an hour.
I mean, it's possible. You never know. I mean, Tesla could come out with 395, 400,000 deliveries
Yeah.
next week or tomorrow,
No, yeah.
and uh, they might
That's
announce a new vehicle on July 4th,
yeah.
and we know they're adding more users to the robotaxi network.
Right, right, right.
So wow, what a weird phrase to say out loud. Um, waiting so long for those words.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, I mean it's possible, but yeah, to anyone who's giving you a hard time, shut up. It's not your money. Be concerned about your own circle. Be concerned
yeah.
about your own money. Be concerned about your own investments. Everyone makes good and bad decisions every day, and
Well, and yeah, and there's a bunch of folks out there, about these folks that are out there saying, "Oh, you're not an investor anymore. Now you're a trader. You're a traitor because you're not, holding your stock." Even, even Mrs. Mertz, even Boomer Mama took a shot. And I kind of responded to it. I thought, hey, I'm out for 3 days. Is it okay? I said, there's a lot of folks who use covered calls or use, other kinds of options plays, leaps, etc., and or trade some, trim, get back in, without being out of the stock or having any change in their attitude about the company. I certainly have had zero change in my attitude about the future of the company.
yeah, well, you can't. You know, again, I love Alexandra, but it is a little inconsistent to say to give you, a lecture or a talking to, wagging the finger at you, yet the board members have no problem selling shares,
Yeah,
and we can justify when that happens. It's you got to be consistent. So if you want to sell because you have an opinion, or it doesn't even matter why. If you want to sell, you can sell. That doesn't make you not a Tesla bull or Tesla fan. And it's fair to, I think, honestly, I think it's fair to do it because we saw what happened last time. And, likely, you're in the danger zone right now because last time it also got resolved very quickly and we came right back. So you might get hurt from this. But at the same time, like, that's a lot to go through. And, I know you look young, but you're not exactly 34 like me.
braggart.
So yeah, no, but seriously, so it's a little different. Sometimes you gotta make a little bit more of a conservative decision and be a little more patient. Alexandra still has a day job and she still works, and I don't know all of her finances or anything, but as far as I can tell, this is your day job.
This,
So
yes, this is my
yeah.
definitely. Well, I have one client left on my
Mm,
what do you call it, marketing consulting business, but I did
yeah.
that on purpose. I allowed it to slowly drift away.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
yeah,
at the end of the day, look, everybody's got to, I think, be, I don't know, just less adversarial with what people do. It's people are already sharing that they're invested in certain stocks and companies. And this animosity when someone buys or sells something, it's not constructive or conducive to anything good.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and speaking of animosity, so of course, part of this whole thing is about Trump and Musk, and I was remembering that J.D. Vance actually called Trump Hitler. That's about as strong as you can get, and he's now the vice president and the heir apparent. So I guess Trump knows how to make up with in the political world.
yeah, I don't know. I think saying that, the whole Epstein thing's might be a little, well, maybe that's not worse. No, that's not worse
No,
than
it's not worse.
killing. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
you're right.
Hitler's on a
That's not,
page all by himself. I think he
that's
gets
fair.
he and Pol Pot and Mao,
Yeah,
Lenin, they get their own special place in history.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
Stalin, I guess it was Stalin more than Lenin, but anyway.
yeah. But I think all this will, or I don't know, obviously, but I imagine this will all pass. Either the BBB will pass the House, and Elon can't really do anything until the primaries, in which case this is kind of a moot point until next year. Next year, it might get a little wild again, or it doesn't pass. And well, now Trump's going to have to break these bills up, at which point it's like, all right, like if I was Trump, I'd be like, all right, Elon, you kept this from passing. You get in here and you do some work and you fix this. And then, you pass each bill individually. You pass the tax bill and you pass X, Y, Z, and you make your way. But I think this is all going to be more or less short lived. I mean, you might still get some more noise from Elon if it does pass and saying, oh, I'll call out and calls people's name out and all that. But at a certain point, I also feel like Elon needs to chill out. And when I say that, what I mean is his current strategy clearly is not working. Clearly hasn't worked. And so either be specific about where the pork is within the bill and call it out. Because again, there's a little bit of inconsistency. You can't on one hand sit there and say these bills come out last minute, nobody reads them, whatever. And then your criticism has no specific, like, look at this. It's like, okay, well, show us. Don't just use ad hominems and, pork belly. Like, okay, where? Show us. Like, I'm not saying it's not there. Like, I guarantee you it's there, but at least be more nuanced and specific and start calling specific things out. And then at the same time, my point of view is like, I have no problem him saying what he's going to say. Like, go on your warpath. Like, at the end of the day, I go with him over anyone else. But I do think that he should be a little more, I don't know, empathetic to the shareholders. And before you go on your warpath, at least make sure that there's something constructive coming for the stock, something exciting, some good news, because right now we don't have anything. Right. And maybe he knows there's things coming out, which is why I am optimistic. I think he strategically is using now as a time to actually speak out. But I don't know. It's a hard place to be right now.
I 100%.
I understand why you sell.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I actually posted yesterday on X that I'd like to see, 5 bullet points. Okay, not $5 trillion increase in the budget. The maximum you can borrow. What is your increase that you would be okay with? I mean, at least Rand Paul says, he'd like to have it every 3 months instead of once every 3 years. Okay, at least it's a point that we can argue over and make a decision, yes or no. But I agree with you 100%. Elon should give us some specificity about the dollar amount that he'd like to see the cuts, the change that he'd like to have in the deficit maximum, et cetera. I'd like to see some specificity. Now, what do you think about his idea of starting a third party? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that we need a third party? Do you think that I'll just tell you my position. I've stated it on X already. I think we should let Trump have his head for at least until after the elections next year, the midterms. Let him have his put his plan out and finish it. And then if at the end of the midterms we've got a problem, okay, now we need to look at alternatives.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked 2 questions there. Let me start off with that last one there. The problem with that is, look, one of the biggest reasons why I did vote for Trump, besides all the obvious ones, why I couldn't vote for Harris, but it was because he campaigned on cutting. I mean, it was about draining the swamp. He talked about that his first time, and honestly, he didn't do a lot of it the first time. And the second time, it seemed like, okay, he's got a team with him now, and we can do. This is a special time. Like, this is a time you can actually look at Social Security and Medicare and the Department of Defense. Like, you can actually go in there and actually start cleaning house and actually making cuts, because you don't have to worry about a reelection. Like, you don't have to. And you got Elon, and you got a balanced cabinet. You got a lot of smart people there. You got Doge. And it's like, well, what happened to all that? Like, where are we? We're not. I don't think we. I don't think that he is seizing the opportunity he has before him.
Hmm.
I think he cares more right now about. I think he's being lazy. Is
Hmm.
the best way I can say it. I think it's lazy to try to cram everything to one bill,
Hmm.
and he's doing is the same mistakes of the past. And honestly, I'd rather see a government shutdown than to see more of this same thing, more of this same crap happen. Like, it's got to stop at some point. And I don't think it's an argument to sit there and say, well, this is a reconciliation. It's not a spending bill. It's like, no, it is a spending bill. Like, come on, like, who are we lying to here? If you just care about the taxes and that's all you care about, okay, then do a clean bill for the tax extensions, the no tips, all that. Do a clean bill just for that. You don't need all this other stuff. And then from there, have the battle. You got into office for this battle,
Hmm.
not to just pass a bill and kick the can down the curb.
Okay, but we have had USAID is closed. They closed it today. It's done. It's over. We've had Pam Bondi came out today with the largest Medicare fraud suit in history with 230 arrests or something like that. We also have closed the border completely. It's 100% closed. Changed over all the people that we needed to change in the Homeland Security Department that needed to be changed in order to make sure that was done correctly. We've got completely new leadership at FBI and CIA that are clearly cleaning house and making some pretty substantial things happen already. We've got the tariffs, you know, working through the system, getting to some place, and we've got $121 billion in additional revenue from tariffs in the first 5 months of the administration. We've got the first growth of real wages for the folks since he was in office last time, which was the only time we've had any real wage growth for the folks in the last 50 years, and it's happening again at the fastest rate ever, up 1.7% in the first five months of the administration. Inflation under control. I mean, it seems to me like there's more than just the big, beautiful bill that's happening as a result of his efforts.
I think we can all hold two thoughts in our head at the same time.
Okay.
And on the one hand, we can say that he has done, or his team has done, a lot of good work. On the other hand, I think we can also be honest about jamming a big bill down everybody's throats just to get it done. That's all he cares about right now, is just getting it done to get it done. And I don't think that's good.
Let me ask you for your understanding, because I'm unclear. The 51, this reconciliation bill has to meet certain criteria. And in order to be only 51 votes, which obviously we're not going to get more than 53 maximum on anything we do, because we're not going to get any Democratic votes. So is the bill constructed in the way that it is so that all of this stuff fits into that rule? Or if we broke it up into two or three bills, would each of those be reconciliation bills and only require the 51?
Mm, that's a good question.
See, I don't know the answer to that.
I think I know the answer. Like, I'm pretty confident of the answer, but I would not put money on it, so I don't want to actually say what I think. The bottom line is, the argument that he makes is that we need to get these tax cuts.
Right.
That's his argument.
Or keep
Okay.
the old tax cuts.
Exactly.
Right.
You can do all that in the reconciliation bill without all these other things in it. That's the bottom line.
All right.
I am confident in that.
I just don't know what the other side of that is with all the other things that we do want that are in the bill. I know there's things we don't want, the things that Elon.
What else is in there that you want?
Well, I do want the money for the border in order to
Why?
give because they need the additional funds in order to finish.
Why? But what you just said, that it's closed. You said it's done. It's zero crossings. What
Oh,
he keeps saying.
because I think we have a few more folks that we need to send home.
But that has nothing to do with the border.
Oh, no, but it's part of the same. It's the same budget. So there's the completion of the border in such a way as that the next administration can't come in and just open it up again. So you want to make sure you've got the border really sealed. And because right now, part of that's troops and other things you don't want to keep doing forever. And then you have a bunch of more criminals that you need to deport. And obviously the Democrats are making that more expensive than it needs to be. So that's part of that same budget. So there's a budgetary shortfall with regard to Homeland Security in order to get that job done.
I don't think there's a budgetary shortfall. I think we clearly were able to get it closed. Trump did a really good job. He had a very good point that we didn't need to pass any laws or bills. Literally his phrasing, all we need to do is enforce the laws we have in place. He did it. The borders closed. And we can work through the system and keep doing what we're doing. If you need, in my opinion, if you need more funds, Homeland Security, find other ways to save money.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, listen, in my perfect world, I would like to see Doge finish the job. I would have loved to have seen the Democrats not go to the courts 15,000 times and stop them from the savings that we were obviously getting.
But even that's not going to happen anymore.
Well, I don't know. Oh, you mean they're not going to be able to stop them?
They're not going to be able to stop them. Supreme Court has already ruled on that. So that's what I'm saying. Okay. So let's just put a pin in the border because I feel like I've nullified that. So what else is in there that you want?
You've won that round, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
You're pretty confident. Well, listen, I'm just listening to the guy who did it, who closed it.
Yeah, and his words were, "We clearly didn't need any new bill or anything."
And then he said last week, several different times, that he needs additional funds in order to complete the job. So that's what I'm listening to. So
he also said that Elon is only doing this because of his EV subsidies and credits. So
Trump or Holman or whatever was
Trump.
that?
Oh, got you. You're talking about Holman.
Yeah. Holman's the one that said he needs the additional funds to finish the job. Well, listen, we could spend the whole hour.
Wait, just give me one more. Give me one other thing.
One more?
One other thing.
So I don't know for sure. They're asking for more money for the military. What I do know is that the future military needs to be a lot different than the present military. And if the new folks that are in there now are saying we need more funding in order to make that transition into the modern, in the modern situation, while at the same time, Trump has done this amazing job of getting NATO to step up, and pay part of their own way so that long term, that should not be as big an issue. But for the short term, moving to drones, moving to other kinds of moving to the Golden Dome, et cetera, moving into these modern approaches. Apparently, his military leadership has told him they need additional funding. And so that is part of the big, beautiful bill.
That's another area where I'm going to win this round again, because you could take the next 10 militaries in the world and we have a bigger budget than all of them combined. All right. China is outpacing us in how they're faster building ships. They are clearly dominating us when it comes to drones. And again, they are nowhere close to the budget that we have. We essentially have $1 trillion a year for the Department of Defense. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who was in the armed forces, who has served, I know how wasteful they are.
A little waste? Do you think there's a little waste?
There's a ton of waste. And the whole way, I mean, it's all of it is either spend it or you lose it, right? So there's no incentive to be efficient. And again, you can talk about these modern military and all that, but again, look at what China's doing. Look what the rest of the world's doing. And they are building with new technologies, and they're not being as efficient. Again, because you can make the same argument. And what's the most important strategic defense that we have right now, more than anything? It's SpaceX.
Oh,
bar none. So don't tell me that you need to have the money to spend on all this stuff when you literally, like, everything Elon's doing, SpaceX is doing, is the antithesis of what they would have you believe when it comes to whether it's Boeing or NASA. It doesn't make sense. So if the rest of the world, if China can do what they're doing, And even at that point, it's not a labor thing. Like there's like this myth that China's just cheap labor. Not true. It's like this myth that it's just sweatshops over there. Not true. They're highly automated factories that they have over there. They don't have a million people sitting there screwing in little drones. That's not the case. So I think I think the administration is being lazy. I think they're trying to just jam everything in. And honestly, for our country, I hope it fails. I hope that they are forced to have the fight that we voted for. We voted to have a fight where people come together. And if we need to shut the government down, so be it. Shut the damn government down until we have bipartisanship. It's
Boy,
the only way.
boy, for a young kid, you sure are more conservative than I even am.
We
And
shut the government down before.
yes.
I was still in the academy at the time. And so we sat there. We couldn't do anything.
So listen, you and I are perfectly aligned, except I end up having seen the sausage being made real up close and personal and some political activity that I was involved in. I'm I'm concerned that the same thing that Elon has been running into is the same kind of things that, make it very difficult for a democracy, a democratic republic like the United States to be able to move as quickly as you might like, because you have all these interest groups that you have to solve. I mean, Lisa Murkowski today, you couldn't get her vote until you guaranteed that the reductions in Medicare wouldn't shut down rural hospitals. I mean, that's a pretty narrow thing. Kind of makes sense if you think about it for a minute, that if you can really make a good case that rural hospitals are going to have to shut down if the folks that don't put in a day's work can no longer afford to come to that hospital, that the marginal difference is going to be important enough. I didn't try to make the argument. I haven't heard the arguments. That's just the argument that's the headline. But that was her vote, and that's how the sausage gets made.
And that's fine. Honestly, I would rather see, I'd rather have the actual fight and the actual discussion, not trying to squeak a bill by 1 point, having to get the VP to come in and do a tie break. Like, we need to get to a point where we have a president that will not sign on anything that's not a balanced budget, or at the very least, 3% of GDP. Like, there's got to be a line where it's like, I don't care if you guys are the most bipartisan agreement on this bill. I will not sign it if it's above a certain point. Like, if I was Trump, I wouldn't even get involved in the details. You guys figure it out. You're the ones who come up with this. It's a representation. Here are my few things. You got to have tax cuts in there. You have to have no tax on tip. I campaign on it. The people want it. That's my only thing. Other than that, you guys figure it out. Balance the damn budget.
So do you think that Bessent is just going along to get along because Bessent has signed off on the big, beautiful bill, and he says that it will give him what he needs to get to that 3%?
I think the problem is that a lot of these people, including Bessent, look in 10-year horizons, and they also factor in GDP growth.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that we have seen over the last 2 decades, GDP growth is never what it needs to be to make any of this real. And all of this cut over 10 years, or if you amortize this out over 10 years, it's not that much. It always tends to be wrong. It always tends to balloon the debt. So I think you need to have a clean deficit in order to act. I don't think you can do all this fuzzy math, which is what happens.
Okay, so you're saying that you think the democratically controlled CBO numbers are correct, and that
No, that's not what I said. I literally I almost cuss on your channel. I literally just crapped all over them.
Okay, so
because they do the same thing. They give false GDP because you don't know what it is. You're assuming
1.7. They're basically
okay, and maybe that's overdoing it. Maybe look at the last GDP reading. Look how low that was. So maybe they're overstating. Maybe they're understating. Who knows? But they're still looking out over 10 years, and right, their projections are not cogent.
Okay, so
It's no different than a Tesla investor in 2020 telling you where the stock will be in 2025. They're as good as that person predicting.
you still have to predict. You can't do a budget without making. I can't do a household budget without predicting that I'm
Yes,
still.
you can. No,
No,
you
I can't.
can't.
I say I can't do a household budget if I don't project my income, if I don't project my
You,
food expenses, if I don't project my.
no, sir. No,
Okay.
sir. That's not how you do your household income. You know how much you're bringing in, and then you spend based off that. And if you're not doing it that way, you're doing it wrong.
Okay, but if I say I'm going to bring in $100,000 next year, and all of a sudden YouTube cancels my channel, I don't bring in $100,000. To your point, if Besant says we're going to bring in 300 billion from tariffs, and all of a sudden there's a change in the way that the Supreme Court says something about tariffs, and it's only 200 billion, well then that was not
If
predictable.
that's what we were talking about, these 1% externalities, like, oh, you might get laid off or something like that, I would say that's a fair, but that's not analogous with what we're talking about here.
Okay,
We're talking about here, we're talking about fuzzy math, projecting out decade ahead of time, figuring out what is GDP, how much are we going to bring in when nobody actually knows. You know how much you make monthly. You know it.
it's the
You
ballpark.
might be, yeah, you might be 2 to 3% off. You know how much you make. Everybody knows how much they make monthly. It's even people in sales, even realtors, even people who are on commission. They know what at least their base is, what they can conservatively estimate.
Right.
So it's not the same. It's very different. And from there, a proper budget, you budget around what you bring in,
Okay,
not
so
what you
so
think
then,
you might bring. The raise I might get next year in this
all
potential
right,
hypothetical commission check.
all right. So maybe the better analogy would be a business. So you've got a business and you've got X number of customers. In my case, my little water bottle business, I had the mass market, I had the bicycle shops, I had the international customers, I had the, however many different, like let's call it 10 different categories of customers. Not only did I not know whether Target would still be with me next year or whether they would increase or decrease, I didn't know whether there'd be a recession in the second quarter, which might cut my sales, which it did in 2000, September of 2000, cut my sales in 25% in 1 month, but it also cut the sales of General Motors, Ford, and everybody else in 1 month by 25%. So I can project as best I can what customers I think are going to do next year. I can aggregate them. I can look at 5 or 10 or 20 years of history and say what happened in all those historical years. What do I think that that's going to do in terms of next year? But also look at the economy and say, what do I think the economy is going to do that might impact this? And then come up with a number. But boy, it can be off by 5%, 10%, 20%. I mean, it's not that hard for it to be
And when
off
you
the
do
back of.
that for a business, you're not going to sit there and be more bullish than what you have seen historically. Historically, right now, we barely make a 2% GDP. Historically, I think it's even 1 point something over the last like 20 years. So even with your example here, like you wouldn't, even no matter what business you are not going to be overly optimistic about how much you're going to bring in. Like you'll want that, but you're not going to make buying decisions, equipment, supply based on maybe I'll sell this amount, right? You need to balance how much you're putting out there in inventory, how much you're collecting with what you're going to sell. And ideally, you have a demand problem, not a supply problem, right? But even then, it's still not a good analogy, besides the fact that I just pointed out there, because as a business, you're providing a value. The government doesn't provide value. The government steals from all of us.
Well, it protects our borders. And I mean, sometimes depends on the president.
Yeah,
Uh,
and if that's all they did, great.
so we have though, even the CBO with their 1.7% projection, which I think is obviously it's going to be better than that. But with their 1.7% projection, they still say that the number is within the ballpark of being about where it is right now. And then we have the 300 billion in projected tariffs that are not included in the CBO analysis. We have the reductions, dramatic reductions in government spending, which have already been showing up in the last 2 months on the reports. And then the combination of that additional income and those reductions is eventually going to impact the tariffs, which will lower the amount of interest that we will spend less money on interest than we is being projected by CBO, because it'll be less total borrowing as those numbers.
Why defend this? Why defend any of this?
Why am I defending it? I'm defending it because I feel like the president has earned his stripes, and that we need to give him what he needs to complete his first set, his three-legged stool, however you want to say it. Give him the tools that he's asking for to get to the next year. Next year, we have a whole new reconciliation bill. Next year, we have all the history of what happened in the first year to be able to look at and say, okay, now what can we do to make the next year even better? But I feel like with all that he's done internationally, with all that he's done with peace, with all that he's done in terms of the border, with all he's done in terms of arresting criminals across the country like crazy. I think they said the other day that the Biden administration never arrested a single person in the most wanted, the 10 most wanted, and we've already arrested the entire 10 in the first 5 months.
You know, it's interesting because I'm seeing more people my age wanting to have this fight to balance the budget.
Wow.
And I'm seeing more people who are older than me. I'm not calling you out here. I'm just saying general. It's what I'm seeing. People who are older than me kind of saying what you're saying, right? Like it's fine. Like, let's just get through. Like, you're not going to do it overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 year, right? All these excuses. But one of my favorite quotes is that, you have a great society when you have the older generation planting trees that they'll never benefit from the shade. And I don't feel like we're doing that right now. And I feel like it's the younger generation that is kind of stepping into the fold here, saying, like, this was our opportunity. This is our opportunity still. Like, let's seize the moment. Like, when are we going to have this opportunity again?
Next year.
No, you won't have it next year.
Why not?
Because odds are that the Republicans will lose Congress.
No, but that'll be before we have one more reconciliation bill available to us next year before anything happens to Congress. So you have this bill this year for the budget. 1 year from now, we have another opportunity for another budget, and that will be another opportunity and in the meantime, we have the opportunity for these what do you call them? These rescissions, where we can.
But why not do it now? Why wait a year?
Because I think that's the point that we've been making the entire time, is that I think my number one strongest argument personally is I think Trump deserves to finish his project because he's proven that he's been good for it. He said, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do. He says, look, I need to have tariff. I'm going to put tariffs of 145% on China. And the world, went crazy and go, what are you talking about? This will be the end of time. And I'm sitting there going, this is how Trump works. This is how he does things. I'm going to give him 2 months. I'm going to give him 3 months. Let's see what happens to the tariffs 90 days from now. I think you said that on this very show at the time. Give him 2 months. We'll see what happens with the tariffs.
I did, and I was right.
Yeah, and you were right.
And I'm probably right again. Let's listen to the people who are right.
I said, give him his year. Give him his third leg.
I didn't say give him his year. I said give
him his third leg on the stool.
And what I'm saying is, do you think he knows what's in this bill? Be honest. Like, do you honestly think he knows what's in this bill?
It's 1,600 pages. So no, I think what he knows.
So no, he doesn't. The same way Margaret, whatever her name is, didn't even know about the AI thing portion in there that the Senate had to take out. Mm-hmm. This is lazy. I don't know how else to say this. When you're sitting there after you voted on a bill and you're like, oh, if I knew that was in there, I wouldn't have voted for it. Lazy. They're all being lazy. There should not be a single bill that's more than 45 pages. Small, bite-sized, digestible. You want to run it like a company? Run it like a company. No company would ever have a $1,600 or 1,600 page agreement. That is not what at least in my world, in
Mhm.
tech world, the companies that actually do, a lot of innovative things,
Right.
they're not doing that. Less is more. Efficiency. So I don't know. We might always have a difference of opinion on this, but I again, I think we've had a lot of success so far in this year. I think Trump has done many good things. I also think he's done some bad things. And I think right now, this is one where if he would just, and again, this isn't just an Elon thing, because like I said at the beginning of the show, I also think Elon's being lazy. Like, don't sit there and just tell me it's filled with
Right.
pork.
Right.
You already did that a month ago. Great. Tell me what, like specifically, call it out. Call out the things you don't like. What exactly is it you have an issue with?
Mhm.
And what do you like that's in there?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
maybe at that point you get taken a little more seriously. But what you're doing right now doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I actually said, I don't know, it would have been 4 or 5 weeks ago. I said, why don't you you're raising the military budget by 100 million, 100 billion. Why don't you raise it? Why don't you lower that by 50? Come down something, lower it by 30. This number is kind of a round number anyway. So let's give something on that. Border bill, you're asking for $45 billion or whatever it is, bring that down to 35. Take each of these things that are adding to or not helping to reduce the deficit and give back something so that the conservatives, the very conservative part of the party, could say, okay, now at least you're giving us something.
yeah, it's just crazy to me why you can't just across the board
Yeah, yeah, I've
like just
said that too.
yeah. So everybody, 10% cut. Figure it out. I don't care what it is. Figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like just every department, every sector of the government, anything that's in there, like everyone, 10% cut. Figure it out. I don't
Okay,
care if you have to lay people off. I don't care if you have to cancel
how do you get
software
there?
contracts, close a building down, people work from home. I don't care what you do. 10% cut. You figure it out. Ball's in your court.
Okay,
And pull an Elon. Either figure it out or we'll just fire you all and we'll hire people who will figure it out.
right, right, right. All right, so let's get back to Tesla for a minute. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? We talked about the numbers a minute ago, but what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
So I think that I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I think tomorrow, I tend to be a person that thinks that the market will price these things in ahead of time. While the market doesn't know exactly what the number is, I think the market knows enough of a ballpark of where the number is. And I think I would say $20 of this whole move down that we've had recently has been just today, Trump and Elon.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the rest of it has been the market discounting these lower vehicles. I think that's been built in. It doesn't mean we won't see a drop tomorrow. We may. I would be if I was going to bet money, I would probably put a little edge to us finishing green tomorrow than red.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you don't think that the drop, where were we? 267 was the highest day, I think. I'm sorry, 367, I think was the highest it got. So we came down from 367 to like 320, and then we had the Trump fight, and we went down to 300. So on that other 47, I thought a lot of that was disappointment in the robotaxi rollout. Because I think there was a lot of people that thought it was going to be more pure in terms of not having a safety rider, not having a one-for-one command and control from headquarters. What do you call it? A remote driver. I think people might have thought it would have had a larger zone of geofenced area. Anyway, I think there was
Really?
I think there was disappointment not by people in the community. The people in the community, you, me, we probably went, okay, that's fine. That's really being safe. I'm talking about the ones on the edge. You know, it's always about the marginal buyer, the marginal
I,
seller.
I actually disagree with that that take, which is surprising because normally with Tesla stuff, you and I are pretty aligned. I I I think the exact opposite. I think that the only reason the stock isn't really moving right now is because, besides Elon Trump stuff,
Yeah.
I think it's literally because they're waiting for us to get through these numbers. And I think that's been kind of like the cold water on everything. I think once we get on the other side of these numbers, if they're like decent, if they're like, I don't know, anything over 360, I think it's going to be great for the stock probably. I don't really know, but I think people have been waiting to get past this before they get into it. But I think the real thing that a lot of people are waiting for is to see, okay, you started it as great. Okay, now you got me on the edge of my seat. Let me see how long it takes you to expand. And then from there, I think the race is off.
Yeah,
I
but
think people are just waiting.
yeah, well, that would be my point though, because you remember I was the guy who said I thought we'd be at all-time high by Monday. And
Well,
then,
I didn't say I agreed with you.
well, no,
I'm just disagreeing with your sentiment.
no, I'm just saying. So my sentiment was more like what you were saying, that this would be something where people would go, "Oh my gosh, that is absolutely amazing. I better get in now because
No,
it's."
no, no, no.
Oh, it did went
Not yet.
up
No,
10% on the first day. So there
no.
was a FOMO moment.
Yeah, but that's not going to be that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is right now, a big money are perked up. I
Okay.
think big money is looking at this. They're actually seeing what's happening and what they're trying to see. Like first of all, the geo area is bigger than what Waymo started off with. They started off with nobody in the driver's seat, and it's honestly going flawless right now.
Well,
And
I'm
they're
agreeing.
now expand. No, I'm saying like this is what big money is seeing, and I think they're very bullish on it. The thing that I think they're waiting for is let's get through the delivery numbers because that might be our opportunity. Look, today, why are we at 300?
Instead of 250.
The stock was getting bought up all day. You think just anybody's doing that? No, that's not retail. I promise you that's not retail. All right. This is big money taking their opportunity because they know what they're doing. And literally, it's what they're doing. They see their opportunity. And they weren't planning on Trump and Elon, but they were probably planning on these delivery numbers not being good and the stock taking a hit.
Mhm.
And so now they get a 2-for-1. And I think they're starting to pile in there. And I think tomorrow, once the news is out of the way, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not claiming like this is exactly what's going to happen, but I'm just saying I would put the edge. I'm not saying like 80-20, but just an edge, like maybe like 55-45
Right.
towards us being green tomorrow. Because once the news is out, good or bad, we'll see what it is. There's a chance that they also mentioned the new models.
Mhm.
And I really think they're just waiting to see when's the next expansion.
Well, if
Do
you,
you go from current to all of Austin?
yeah.
Bullish. They're going to be piling in.
So the Model Q, if you add the Model Q in, how could I disagree with you? Even though I don't care that much about the Model Q, I do believe the street does, and I believe that if you add that into the formula, I will be having to buy back in tomorrow. But if you don't have the Model Q and we hit a number, let's say between 360, between 350, I'm sorry, between your number 360 and 380, which I think is very unlikely to be higher than that, but really serious players, AJ, Troy Teslike, and and yeah, the other one, Cat, have all predicted under 360. So if we fall under 360, 355, 350, 345, we get into that range. I think that there's a hit to the price. And with and whether that hit, my theory, of course, obviously is I think that hit lasts 2 days. It lasts Thursday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and that by next week, that's old news. And now we're back to looking at the future, which is all about AI, but that we have to get through those 2 days in order to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like if they say anything on that release, like, you know, we had certain lines shut down, so we had lower production as we transition our assembly lines to our new models, or you know, if they say anything regarding new models in the statement, which I hope they do, and then if they talk about if they list there like how many robotaxi rides they've given in 1 week, essentially, like that could be big. I mean, I don't know. Like you never know what it could be. None of that.
Yes.
None of that could be in there. I went back and I looked at the last four um, delivery number releases.
Right.
Sometimes they say a little something, but not always.
Right.
A lot of times they're just pretty straightforward. But
We could
I
get
don't
a
know.
lift. We could get a lift tomorrow from the energy deployments.
That
AJ
never does anything.
AJ's at 11.5. I'm at 12.5. It would not be impossible to be 15. So if we had a situation where the deployments out of Shanghai were a little stronger than expected, and because of this up and down thing, even with just uh, California plus the power walls, we can do 12 and a half just with that. If we had a great month, we could have a 12 and a half just from those two, not counting Shanghai. And we know there were some shipments out of Shanghai. So we could theoretically have like a 15. That might pump the market.
Yeah, maybe. I again, I my take is the deliveries don't matter anymore with Tesla.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and they haven't for a while. And I find it very hard to believe that the first quarter, where they finally launched Robotaxi, where they're going to go on the earnings call with probably disappointing deliveries, as they have for essentially the last 2 years,
Right.
right? Last 2 years, disappointing deliveries.
Right.
And every time they come on there, the stock manages to hold up. Why? Because of the story that's told and the promise of the future. And that now we finally get into a quarter where we have the disappointing numbers, and it's no longer a story, but it's actually, yeah, we launched and now we're starting to scale. I mean, who knows? But by the time we have earnings, they might be in all of Austin.
Yeah.
They might be in a bigger geo area than what Waymo is.
We're fully aligned on that side.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just saying, it's like I feel like the delivery stuff is just it's noise. And again, sure, maybe they're shutting down 4th of July just to retool and whatever, and maybe that's just normal maintenance because it's a long weekend. Really? Like, am I really to believe that? Like we know that they've been talking about the first half of the year, and all of a sudden they're gonna be redoing. They're taking these factories down to redo these lines. Like it all seems like it's for new vehicles to me.
All right. Well, we're getting ripe here in our hour. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers if it's okay with you. Uh,
Wait, hold on. Do you agree with that? Do you think that they're taking the lines down for the new vehicles?
I don't have a clue at this point. It is so crazy. I'm shocked that there's no visibility on this. I mean, we've had a couple of pictures that people have poo-pooed, that the two-door version, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that was it or not it, but to not see anything at all yet is really, really wild. And
What about the rendering in
little
the
drawing in the annual report. I reported that last night. And I said, looks like it could be it. Somebody else said, oh, that's showing that any other car can also get fuel up
yeah,
in our posts.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
no, I thought it was very clever if it was. But I mean, not to have vehicles, camouflage vehicles out there testing. It's like I don't know. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, might be. And then also all the curtains they have up right now. Like
I know
that's
the curtains are a thing. There's no doubt about it. 100%.
yeah.
Agree with you.
So
Yeah.
all right.
All right. What we got is we got Tesla down 51 whole cents in the after hours. So sitting
Mm,
around where it's been all day. It's 300. I'm out at 280. I'm sorry, 298 and a half. So that's my number that I have to get back to at the very, obviously I just said out. I want to be out at 305 if it starts to shoot. I want to try to grab 305 before it goes crazy. And I'll be perfectly happy to take the 6.5 buck loss plus the 15 cents or whatever it is for the trade. What does it cost today? Like pennies for the trade. Okay. So we've got, I've got to go find it because I'm trying to do two things at once. And we got the bonds coming down a little in the pre-market. So we're at 4.242, but we were at 4.20, actually a little bit under 4.20 on Monday. So I'm a little sad that we've gone back up again, but at least directionally right now we're starting to head down again. What do you think's gonna happen with the bonds? Do you think the bonds are going to lead the way, or do you have any theory on the bonds?
Um, yeah, they've been interesting. I'm surprised, like just how much they've been dropping.
Yeah.
Like it's a little surprising. Um, I don't know if it's gonna last though. I don't know. I really don't have much of a take on this, Randy. I don't know what yours is, but it's
My take is
things
hope.
feel unusual.
It's all hopium.
Yeah.
Because the bond right now, the bond market is absolutely not doing anything that anybody's predicting. It's like
I do think here's a shot in the dark. I think there's a chance that Powell cuts in July.
he hinted today that it wasn't off the table.
Yeah.
So maybe it's getting closer. I'm sure that the weekly meeting between Powell and Besson would be a place I'd like to be a fly on the wall. It's a lot of interesting conversation going on at that lunch or breakfast or whatever it is. Anyway, oil unchanged in the pre-market, 65.44, pretty much what it's been since the war ended. Around $65 is where it's been. I don't know. I think it'll come back down all the way to 59 again, but there is the OPEC decision, I think, which happens this weekend or something, whether they're going to increase in August or not. So there you go. We have natural gas dropping like a rock, but it's up a little bit in the pre-market, back up to $3.41, but it was almost $4 just a couple of days ago. So natural gas has been dropping really fast.
Yeah, it seems like just commodities in general um, have been dropping. I don't know why mine won't load right now, but
Except for copper. Copper is at $5.05. So this is, I think, I'm pretty sure it's all time. I can check that by tomorrow. I think it's all time high. Silver is on the borderline of all time high, 36.10. And gold has been playing around back and forth, back and forth. It's at 33.49, down 70 cents in the pre-market. Bitcoin down 1,822 today at 105. Any ideas on directionality there?
um, no, I feel like a lot of these assets like Bitcoin, gold, silver, I think I could see a period where they all kind of just meander in these levels for a while.
Okay. So once the big beautiful bill passes, there could be a relief rally for the equities, maybe bonds. I'm not sure, but there could be a relief rally just that it's done. Most of the people that I'm listening to on CNBC seem to think the big beautiful bill is a stimulant, will stimulate the economy. And that would include like BlackRock and others. Multiple people saying the tariffs are not impacting their prices yet, including Amazon saying it's not impacting their prices. So it seems like, and the JOLTS was up today, a slight amount, but it was up instead of down. So it seems like the economy is not too bad, and we could, and we're of course all-time highs on the S&P and the Nasdaq. So
Yeah, I mean, I think only time will tell, and it's I don't know if the bill is going to pass or not because it has to go back to the House. I don't know if if Elon's threats are moving anybody, if everyone's just like ignoring him. I don't know if companies are actually not hurting from the tariffs and they're just kind of eating it at the moment, thinking that this won't be forever and they're just trying to ride it out. That's kind of Powell's sentiment. I don't know if the Fed's going to cut. So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. But I would agree with you that in general, while I still think things are slowing down, I still think housing is slowing down a lot. I think things are still ridiculously expensive out there. I don't think prices are getting more expensive per se. I actually think things are starting to come down a little bit, but I still think things are overly expensive. But yeah, I'd have to agree with you that it seems like things are good at the moment, but we are trending towards slowing, not growing, or not. Yeah, I would say slowing, not growing.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And that could all get fixed with the Fed.
Yes. Right. Equities. Up 0.03, S&P up 0.05, NASDAQ up 0.07. So to the extent that we can use tonight to predict tomorrow, it would seem like we might be heading a little bit up tomorrow. Last
Yeah. Well, actually, normally up in the post market, so in the evening,
Yeah.
it tends to be it actually tends to mean that we sell off tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
By the opening or by the day? By the end of the day?
At the opening.
At the opening. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know about by the day, but just based on the opening. But tomorrow, none of this is going to matter for Tesla tomorrow. I don't care what it does. If Tesla's all going to be about the deliveries, anything that might be seen in there, and it has the market been selling off in prep for this, and so once they're out, they're out, and then do we start to rally because people are anticipating new vehicles, robotaxi expansion, things that Elon might say on the earnings call, etc. Or is this going to be like, oh no, Tesla in trouble, sell off? So we will see.
All right. And so you've also heard my side, which I am actually predicting Tesla's down tomorrow, down on Thursday. I either get back in on Thursday or I get back in on Monday. Or if Nicholas is right and it starts shooting up tomorrow, after the announcement, I will try to jump out before it goes crazy.
Just to be clear, Nick said that we might close tomorrow. Green, slight edge. Didn't say shooting up. I don't know if I'm anticipating shooting up anytime soon, but if we do shoot up tomorrow, make sure you edit this part out.
Okay. I will. I'll do my best. All right, Nick. As always, it's great to have you on. And for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
Cheers.